Hey, welcome back to another Manga Talks video. Today I'm going to be specifically focusing on doing a comparison between the reprint box set that was recently released and that I did show off in a video. This is the Nakayoshi Book series box, which reprinted 5 of Umezz's old shoujo horror works back from around the 60s. It's a very faithful reprint because they keep the covers, they keep the ads, and the insides are all the original. I'm going to be comparing those to this reprint as well. So this is the heavy on the Perfection edition. So the Perfection editions were, I believe, these special editions done for Umezz's anniversary as a manga of 50 years, and then this box set was done as a celebration of Umezz's since 90 years of his life. He passed away very recently, but this box set came out this year. And so yeah, reading through these originals versus the reprint, the Perfection edition, is extremely different. There are so many touch-ups, so many differences between the originals and this Perfection edition that it's absolutely insane. I had to write a list of everything down, but it almost feels like a different story for some of these. So in total, I already read this in the past, but these two I've read, and then I've read the Red Butterfly, so I've got 2 more left to read. But just to give some background for this, there's a little pamphlet that goes through an explanation of what the series is and different things about it. So I just got up a translated version of it. But Nakayoshi Book is a series of B6 size 130-page standalone manga supplements published in the 1960s as an appendix to Kodansha's monthly girls manga magazine Nakayoshi. So Nakayoshi is apparently Japan's oldest manga magazines, celebrating its 71st anniversary this year. It has the longest history among the many boys and girls manga magazines and remains in publication today. So the first issue came out in 1955 for Nakayoshi, which was the same year that Umezz's debut work Mori no Kyodai, which is like the siblings of the forest, was released. The lineup of Kazuo Umezz's works, which were particularly popular in Nakayoshi Book, mainly consisted of reprinted and first-time collected works of girl horror, mystery, and school romantic comedy that were originally published in rental book format and rental short story collections in the late 1950s. Its content was structured like a girls' comic version of Kodansha's Casey Comics paperback manga, which began publication around the same time. And so, yeah, we're essentially looking at when was this actually released? Because these were like originally published around the 60s. This Perfection edition must have come out in like 2000 and something. So yeah, so they had the originals here like 1965, 1966. This Perfection edition, I believe, must have come out in the early 2000s. Don't know why there's got to be a date somewhere here. I just don't know where it is, but I'll put it in the description as usual. But I believe from the top of my head, early 2000s, so there is, at least like a 40-year gap between these two. So I think we'll get right into it. We're going to start off with the first one, which is going to be this one. This is Marana no Shoujo. This is a story that is called Spotted Girl. So what I'll do first is just go through a brief rundown and flip through of what this looks like. But for this, I really enjoyed it. I read this first. Loved the Perfection edition, one of my favorite horror books that I have right now. And I also did a reread of these reprints, and yeah, honestly, it doesn't even compare how good the Perfection edition is. It's just crazy how many changes they made. But essentially the story we have is pretty much escaping a snake woman who converts and turns other people into snake people as well. And it's like we follow Yumiko, who meets her cousin in the countryside, and the snake woman is there causing havoc, and they try to fight it, but It's hard when everyone around you is being turned into snakes. So that's a brief flip through of what that looks like. And then for this, it's page 73 we're starting off at. It looks like this. So first of all, clear difference. The ink, we're using black ink in this case compared to the blue ink of the original. And so I guess we'll get started. This will be a interesting layout because I only have 2 hands, and I do want to make sure I am showing them off properly. So it might be an awkward video, just a heads up. But I have written a list of different things that I noticed while reading. So obviously the original has the original cover pages and title pages like this. They've also got a like a summary or like a plot outline of sorts, introduction. So this is the title page I was talking about. For the Perfection Edition, it just gets right into the story. And so you will notice a lot of different things. The first thing I will say as well is it's not going to be a one-to-one page replication because there are a lot of panels that are moved around. They are resized. Some panels may be missing, some panels may be added. So there's a lot of differences. So as you can see, if you're looking at the first page, on the original side, you see, let's compare, we've got the women here with the lights, same over here, right? But if you have a look at the added panel of the landscape, that has replaced the title here, because another difference is that there are chapters in the original, but for the Perfection, it's just all one story. So it's not divided into chapters. So I'm not gonna go through the entire book and compare like this, but just first section pretty much. Okay, so let's see here. If you have a look on the second page, already you can tell, right, on the reprint side we are seeing 2 large horizontal panels of the snake woman on the ground. On the oh my god, I keep mixing it up. Okay, I'm just going to refer to this one over here, the original, and then this one over here, the Perfection. So the Perfection, as you can see, it's split up into 4 or 5 different panels, right? So we have a slower, I guess, motion where it zooms in. And the main thing that stands out about the Perfection versus the original is the amount of detail added, I feel like, into most of the panels. You have a look at the 2, right? Umezz has redrawn, added so much for a majority of the work, which is absolutely insane. The speech as well. So you see here the dialogue also changes. So that's also interesting too, but I guess it's not too much of a big thing. But yeah, you'll find that dialogue has changed a lot too. And if you have a look at this lady who's dead over here and then this lady over here, you see the big difference between the 2. The background's different. The main subject matter is the same, but you look at the detail of this contorted flesh versus just the eyes there, the shadow behind. It's just crazy how different it is. And another thing to point out as well, for the original, they have panel numbers on each panel. And then for, of course, the Perfection, you don't have that. So there's another big, I love comparing these big pages as well, which we'll see. Look at the original there compared to that. So much more detail added in the rocks, in the actual face of the snake woman, the motion lines of the wind or rain, whatever it is. The sound effects are actually kept the same, but I did notice along the way that there were a few changes to some sound effects as well. It's kind of like a minor thing, not too much of a major thing. But if you look at this panel on the right, these panels, sorry, they don't appear over here. And so, as I said before, some panels are also rearranged. So sometimes they might appear in different places. So have a look at this as well. That's an example of that. Or not an example, but like you can see here. These 2 are correct in matching. And then you have this here, which I think appears on the next page. But have a look at that. You can see all of that extra shadowing, the hatching on the left of, I think it's, what's her name? No, I forgot her name already. Her face. Same sound effect, but different font. So it's very interesting. Like, I don't know what exactly the redrawing process of this was, because, you know, there's so many things that are different between the two. It's absolutely insane. There we go. Like, because the panels are ordered differently, you know, the tension of the book feels different too, because you're going to be page flipping on this one to this face, but on the Perfection edition, it's not a page flip, it shows on the actual page itself, right? But like, have a look at that. You have way more of a defined feel of it being a reptile and a snake compared to this. Like, yes, I love the original, but just seeing the Perfection, it's just sometimes comical. Like, there's absolutely no disrespect, but I'm just saying that if you have a look at this, like, that's the whole point of the Perfection edition, right? Is to perfect the original, which is really funny because the day I'm recording this is the day that Bring Me the Horizon released their Reprinted Count Your Blessings album. Love that. But yeah, it's kind of funny that I'm doing this original versus reprint on the same day or day after the Count Your Blessings Reprinted came out as well. Right, so let's see here. Where are we at? I'm already confused. Okay, here we go. Teacher, a lot smaller of a panel. I also did notice as well, there's sometimes that different kanji are added to the speech bubbles too. So sometimes they're just in hiragana in the original, and then the Perfection cleans it up a little bit, adds some kanji. I don't even know where we're at, because we just flick the page and we're on completely different panels now. Maybe it will appear separately. I don't actually know. See here, like this whole suitcase thing. I don't know where that comes through in this original. Suitcase. Yeah, it seems like that was actually skipped. So like these panels here, these pages were deleted, which doesn't happen all the time, but does happen. It does happen. Okay, where are we at? Okay, here we go. Interesting. This is a really interesting one. Such a big panel in the original versus this being a small horizontal panel on the bottom. You see they added the speech dialogue here of wait versus ah, just screaming ah. And then in between these panels here, you have all of those smaller ones interspersed. So I guess flesh it out more. But the black versus the blue ink plays a huge role because it complements the extra amount of shading and shadows that Umezz has done in the Perfection edition. Absolutely insane. And even to this day, this Hebi Onna book is still one of my favorite horror reads. Okay. And you'll find that sometimes I'm trying to make sense of where I'm at, because one flip of a page could bring you to a different point in story between the two. So we have, I think, yeah, over here, we're matching over here. But even just look at this compared to that. Extra characters, well, different characters this time. I don't know, they look like adults here instead of kids, but obscured in the shadow. This panel over here looks completely new. There's so much more depth to the Perfection. Okay, I don't know. Okay. That's interesting. I don't even know. Okay, yes, we've got that matching over here. And then as you can see, that's another split in the story with chapters, and then for the original, it's just continuing the story. And what I think as well is that some pages, the shoujo eyes are very similar. Some pages, Umezz touches it up a lot and makes it look a lot more natural in my opinion, and more consistent overall. So here they look pretty similar. Here's a little bit of a different angle. This one's got a bigger focus versus this one over here, but still similar with the eyes. We'll see if an example pops up, but that's something I wrote down as well. Some panels, the eyes look way better. You have the flowy patterns in the back versus not much of that at all. Here's when the snake woman pops out. Yeah, it's so interesting. You know, you compare this specific one, this vertical panel versus this one, a lot more has been made. Like, you can't just redraw over all this because you're rearranging panels, you're like changing perspectives ever so slightly. There's so many things that come into the Perfection Edition that is so insane to think about. Okay. Love this. Like, look at that. No shadow at all in the original, which I think it looks fine, but like adding this looks even better. But yeah, so I think you kind of get the gist now of what the Perfection versus the reprint, the original looks like. It's absolutely insane. A whole different type of experience and story. And I also like, for reading the original, just the experience of reading as well is a lot cleaner in the reprint, because sometimes I just hate how the font, like the words, the spacing is inconsistent, like the characters are too close or the characters are too far. It's just a weird thing for when I'm reading it, versus here where everything is a lot more uniform in terms of the spacing of the dialogue, the characters, the actual kanji and stuff. So yeah, I'm going to, like, I think I'll move on to showing the next book, but I did want to show off something that I specifically noted down, because, you know, going through the rest of the story, you'll get the gist of what the differences are. But there was something as well. I wrote down here in the Nakayoshi version, page 68. Okay, so I got page 68 here, and then page 112 in the Perfection Edition. Okay, this is why I mentioned it. Okay, so let me get my bearings. Where are we at? Here. Okay, so we kind of had them being scared over here. Like, it's not a one-to-one thing, so it's kind of a bit hard, but there's an extra added face here that doesn't appear at all. Yeah. As you can see here, this face on the left. Huge addition. Does not appear at all in the original. So Umezz went out of his way to craft all of these extra pieces for us. It's insane. I want to pull up the title page as well. So this is the cover page, sorry. Here we go. A lot more shadow on the top. A couple more snakes around. Shadows on the bottom too. It's so cool. It is genuinely so cool to see the differences between all these. So yeah, pacing, just the amount of changes, the pacing feels very different too. Matching over here, there's no panels there, and it goes straight into the face. The Shining type thing, maybe a reference. I don't know when no. Yeah, maybe this Perfection came out later in the early 2000s. So yeah, that was one specific thing that I wanted to focus on. And then at the end, yeah, the end of these books have like the original. There's like a fan page section where you can, like, fans submitted their drawings and stuff, which is really cool. So I love the fact that they preserve that. And ads and stuff. And then yeah, I'll just show what the ending looks like. So that's the ending. Panels. And then the ending of this one, 175. that's the ending there. So just, yeah, this one as well I did want to bring up. I'm pretty sure this page does not appear in the ending. That's another thing as well. Yeah, does not appear. This transformation scene of the face. That's all you get in the original. And then you have in the reprint a gradual transformation into this beast. Absolutely insane. Oh, I love it. These perfection editions are so good. All right, so that's the first one, the Spotted Girl. Next, we'll go on to Hebi Shoujo, Snake Girl, and do a little comparison of that as well. So let me just bring up my notes for this. So the perfection I probably read a couple years ago now, maybe 2-3 years ago now. But yeah, so again, we'll do a brief flip through of Hebi Shoujo. In the English version, actually, because the stories in here were published in the early 2000s in English, it was called Reptilia. So just if any of you guys have heard of that, there's a bit of a title change. And so this one is interesting because the story about the story shown in this one is actually, I believe, set before the time of like the other stories. It actually is a connected sort of timeline for like all these snake people in Hebi Onna, which I find really interesting because these ones specifically are like more separate. And so there were actually additions I noticed between the original versus the reprint, where the reprint perfection had added in some panels and some dialogue and pages where it actually allowed for the stories to flow more seamlessly compared to these ones that were more viewed as separate. And yeah, so we are back in time a little bit. We also are still dealing with snakes, snake women, but we are set a little bit before and looking at how a snake curse, like a woman she has a snake curse, pretty much. And yeah, so let's start with this. Okay, so Hebi Shoujo with page 175. Already from the get-go, I think I did show some of these off originally in my haul video, but let's have a look again. So of course you don't have the title page. This is cute as well, little introductory page. And for the perfection, it always starts off a story with these scales. Okay, so missing timestamp. And then have a look at the two men over here compared to the original. So much more dynamic with all the shadows and the shading. It's insane. Right, here we go. That's still kept mostly the same. But I just think the amount of shadowing in this, the amount of shadows in the original, you know, blue ink doesn't do as much justice as having black ink in this case. But yeah, we have a look here, a little bit of a rearrangement, extra panel there. And then I do want to show, there should be an appearance, yep. Okay, so got a bit of thrashing about. The eyes, I don't think appear in the original. There we go, so let's compare the appearance of the snake, same sound effects. Looks pretty similar actually if you compare these two. There's a lot more lines in the rocks, but overall it's a very, not as many changes. It's interesting. Compare this though, he's a lot more in anguish in this one, which is funny. And then there's the shooting scene. Yep, shooting scene. So much more added to the background. And the snake. Oh, so cool. This is so cool. This one I find really interesting though. A lot more obscured. You can't really see the full form of the snake here versus the snake. It's kind of looking very cartoony in that, but here you have the blood kind of, it is a lot darker. Everything is a lot darker. Alright, and here we go. So this is essentially the story where like the curse starts, like the guy shooting the snake. And then let's see, we now move it to the girls present a little bit. I find it funny though, for this panel, these two girls, she looks completely different from this panel to this. The shoujo eyes just disappear for a second, which is funny. Okay. Yep. Completely removed the girl over here to just focus on that. And yeah, this is another thing I'm saying. Oh no, this is interesting. That's actually the reverse. So if you see here, this has all the big shoujo sparkly eyes versus they removed that for just having a more normal looking girl, which is funny because I kind of actually prefer this over this. So that is very interesting actually. And then this is where the woman comes in for the first time. No, she's not a Yuki Onna, she is the snake woman. Because it does seem cold. Yeah, it is freezing outside. So yeah, the main thing about this story though is that there is a big addition to the ending of the story that I think I'll put more of a focus on, because you can kind of get the gist of it all. So let me just go to the end. Just having a look if there's anything else I want to compare. Okay, so let's go to the end of this, because there are some major differences between the two. Okay, I found it. All right, so we're starting off over here. Sorry, you can't really see it fully, but this is, by the way, not a snake. It's just the girl's just hidden inside. So some differences there. Oh, you know what? I should be doing it the other way. It's orientated this way, so I should be something like that. Okay. Oh god. This is so awkward. This is honestly so awkward, but we'll make do. We will make do with it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, over here. Let's turn the page over here. Yep, some changes there. This looks pretty similar actually. But the main thing I wanted to focus on is this one over here. So this is a scene essentially where like the snake, the spirit of the swamp comes and floods the snake away. So on the right hand side, you've got a couple changes where the sound effect is larger and it's a different sound effects. This one goes like go, this one goes go, like with an extra O. Bit of a rearrange. And then as you can see, over here, the huge swamp, like a face appears where the spirit is. Doesn't actually have that. So on the original, it's already at the end. So the lady gets swept away by the water, and then it ends there, where the children and the characters in the scene, they're wondering like, oh, it shows them that she's alive. So you get swept away, but like maybe I think the curse was swept away too, something like that. But look at the reprint, new page of just insanity. There's another page after this as well. Have a look at that. None of this is in the original. Crazy stuff. So all newly added scenes over here. This is the same, but this face completely new. And then, as you can see here, so these panels were the same, but instead of Yoko, the girl being swept out looking fine, the ending scene to this is actually changed so that it links back to the previous stories that we saw in the earlier parts of the book, because this is supposed to be a prequel back in time. So this ending scene is instead wondering, like showing Satsuki, the girl here, Yoko, the girl who over here, she is shown as fine, but in here Yoko is swept away, and now Satsuki is wondering whether she'll be saved after being swept out. And then we move on to a page here where these people in the hospital, they're talking about this, like, I think from my memory, like the snake woman in there. Yeah, like she thinks she's a snake. I think that's Yoko maybe, but it's I don't remember the specifics of that. But this then brings us back to the story, the first story over here. Same page. And then that starts the rest of the stories, because they are more in the future than this last story here. So it's a very interesting change. I prefer that change actually. It's a lot more like there's more continuity in the reprint versus the original. But either way, it makes sense because the originals were kind of more standalone books compared to this release project that streamlined everything. So good. But yeah, so those were the two stories that I wanted to compare between the two. In terms of the other ones, the reason why I'm not comparing them is because I don't have the original. I don't know if there's a reprint for Red Butterfly Girl. I haven't really looked into these two yet. So this is the Sleeping Girl and the Cat-Eyed Girl. These two are the only ones left that I need to read here, but I haven't really researched or looked up what the originals are, or if they appear in any Perfection Edition releases. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This was a very interesting one to make. It's not every day that you can do comparisons between originals and Perfection editions, and it makes sense that Umezz is the mangaka for it, because he's had such a long-standing defined career in manga that there are so many things that you can compare between the start and the later parts of his career. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.